G'day there, Carlton people. Hard to believe we're already 3 weeks in. It's funny how the season comes and there's a whole lot of build-up, and then before you know it, you're in a situation like ours. 0 wins, 3 losses, some bright spots, but ultimately I think a little bit of disappointment from where we're at. I think it's mostly born out of the fact that we're just desperate to be successful again. If there's one thing I do, it's especially after a loss, I try and just stay away from the forums and the Facebook groups and whatnot, because I think especially maybe the first 12 to 24 hours after a loss, people just sort of talk out of emotion and say things that I don't know if they genuinely mean them or not, but yeah, I think some of the reaction to the Sydney game has been completely blown out of proportion. People are frustrated, and I get that, but the process is the process. The boys will get there when they get there, and there's only so much you can really do right now. Telling people that they're crap, getting all personal with other supporters is just not going to help the cause. We're missing some key players already. We've had a few situations that haven't gone in our favour. I think, if you look at the Sydney game, the opportunity was there to win the game. There's no doubt about that. And it's obviously hard to think back to where we've come from. If you look at last season, particularly in that second half of the year, we weren't even in games. If you really look at it, we weren't even competitive. We had kids out there who just were not ready to play that many games in an AFL season. And so these kids, some of them are still playing, and so some of them need more time. A guy like Paddy Dow is a great example. He sort of has these moments where he bursts out of a pack and then he just he's not able to finish, cleanly with his disposal. And that will come. I mean, a kid like him is in his second year. He's still got to go through those second year blues in a sense sometimes. And I say this a lot, but nothing is linear. Nothing in this life is linear. You don't just get better and better and better and better. You've got to go through peaks and troughs. And I think the comparison that most of us look at is the Brisbane Lions. And it's so funny how quickly our memory just, erades or avoids. What's the word I'm looking for here? Erodes. It's so funny how quickly the memory erodes. Brisbane were a laughing stock 2-3 years ago. These kids, they just weren't ready to play. You got a guy like Eric Hipwood, who absolutely dominated on the weekend, and he's going to take time. He still needs time to grow into his body, and they're starting to look like a really solid outfit. I will say this about the Lions, comparing them to us, that their senior play, they probably get more output out of their senior players than what we do. And look, I'm not having a crack at our senior guys, but at the end of the day, those are you draft the new kids, you draft the new young guns, and you still need your older players to really lead from the front. So my challenge for our senior guys, the Murphys, the Simmos, the Daisy Thomases, Cruiser if he plays, my challenge is really to them, because we haven't really had any of our senior guys really step up. Actually, I should probably point out Ed Kerner. He definitely has stepped up, particularly last week after a lot of pressure came his way from our supporters. So yeah, I'm looking for a really big performance from the likes of Mark Murphy and Cade Simpson this week. I think your senior players really need to lead the way, and in a situation like this where we're about to potentially go 0-4, and you saw what happened last year. With each week that comes and with each loss that mounts, the pressure comes, the confidence drops, we start going into our own show, and that's really the main concern with me this week. So look, let's package it up and see what we can make of this week. So if you remember last time we played the Gold Coast Suns, we played them twice last year. They beat us early in the season. Tom Lynch dominated in kick 7, and then we played them again in I think it was round 19 last year, if I'm not mistaken. Where are we? Yeah, round 19. And it was, we ended up winning the game. It was 12-7, 79 to 5 goals, 14-44. It was a really ugly game, if you remember. Scrappy, 2 of the competition's lesser lights really going at it. We were just so desperate for a win, and we sort of saw this game as really the only game for the rest of the season where we might have been a chance. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why we got over the line, because it was just so glaringly obvious that this was a game that we could win and potentially only win for the rest of the season. And that's actually what ended up happening. So that was that. Cripps and Murphy completely dominated. Murphy had the 36 touches and a goal. Cripps had one of his, monster games, 37 touches, 11 tackles, 1 goal, 1, and it was just one of those real dominant performances from the two of them. There was no Tom Lynch, which is notable in this game because it gives us a little bit of a sample size of our form against Gold Coast without Tom Lynch, also at Metricon. So that's a little bit of a bit of a tick there. Stephen May did play, and if you remember, he collided with Jacob Wiedering, who just had another one of those solid patches of form, regained confidence, and then copped another one of these innocuous knocks. And if you remember, he put his body on the line in that contest and really hurt himself. So I remember that pretty clearly. Paddy Dow kicked Carlton's goal of the year last year, the infamous running beauty, and really got his... It was a nice game for him. I think he had kicked the 2 goals in this game, and he had the 19 touches, which was a step forward for him. And Jared Witts was a notable with 60 hit-outs, and the reason why it's notable is because, first of all, 60 hit-outs, and secondly, it's because Matthew Lobe played, and he could potentially be playing this week, so I'll talk about that in a minute. What am I excited about? Look, we've pretty much played 3 games, and you should probably divide the quarters that we played in half. Half of them have been good, half of them have been not so good. But I genuinely think we're just a better side than what we've shown. Albeit, these dead patches that we've had in every single game this season so far, when we are playing well, it's such an exciting brand of footy, and it lasts for a quarter. And, I know that we have patches where we're just sort of not structured up properly and whatnot. But again, I could be, just very optimistic, but I just really, really think naturally we're a better team than what we were last year. We've added some size to our younger players and some running power. We've added some experience in there. Didn't help that Mitch McGovern was out for the entire second half, but those are the types of situations that I like about the side, and that's what I'm excited about. This is not a game that I think we're going to go to and just get flogged by 40 points. And if that was to happen, then we've got some serious problems. And but again, you can't talk about the potential of losing by 40 points and then already attacking the club. So I've still got optimism about this week. With Marchbank in the side, another thing I'm excited about, I'm looking forward to our defence now adding another layer of composure. That's basically our best 6, if you want to maybe add Williamson in there as well when he gets back. But it's looking like this is the defensive 6 that we're going to have moving forward for the rest of the season anyway. And, it's something that I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more organisation down there. I think Jones and Wiedering have been great thus far and really holding the fort down. So you add Marchbank in there. He's a very talented player, smart footballer. He'll get another game into him and hopefully be much better for the run. So I'm excited about that. I've watched every Gold Coast game this season, and they too have lapses throughout games where the other team is able to assert their dominance. Very much like us, they're still a very young side. They're actually the younger side in the competition, and when that happens, you obviously have inconsistencies in their games. And you can talk about their structure and they play a very strong brand of footy, but the reality is in every single game that they've played, they've let teams assert dominance. And I'm looking forward to seeing if we can capitalise on those moments. And it's as simple as that. I think with each week that passes, new learnings occur. And, with that comes the growth that we talk about. Might sound like a broken record, but that's life. I mean, life's all about growing and growing and growing. And sometimes you need to grow through repetition. It just forget about footy, for example. This is just life. You go through, you make mistakes over and over again until you just sort of click one day and you think, okay, it's not happening anymore. So again, another game, another opportunity to get better, and it's always something I'm excited about. For some people, there's been no improvement, and for others, there's just patience in the process, and I'm leaning towards the latter, and so that's what I'm excited about. Harry Mackay is growing rapidly before our eyes, and we really need to enjoy these early stages of his growth before it just becomes something regular like what we see from Cripps. We don't really look at Cripps in the same lens that we used to, and Harry Mackay has just started, fantastically. Obviously, didn't kick straight as what he is capable of doing, but really looking forward to seeing him add another layer to his game. Cruz has had an extra week to get himself right, and from all reports played in a VFL practice match, so really looking forward to seeing him get potentially another game of VFL into his body, but he could also be playing this week, so really excited by that prospect because we're definitely a better side when he's in the team. Quick change up of rooms, sorry about that. What am I mindful of? I think the pressure of being 0-4 will be lingering in the back of some of the players' minds, and I think it was Nick Revolt who spoke about it a few weeks ago, talking about when you are under the pressure, you sometimes go into your own shell. So I'm really mindful of our boys when they have the ball in their hands, thinking, I don't want to make a mistake, as opposed to moving the ball with confidence. And that's something I'm really concerned about this week, particularly if the game's close, we're in that fourth quarter, or even if we're down by a couple of goals. Do we have the ability to push through that? Are we mature enough to push through that? And that's where my comments earlier about the senior guys on the list become really relevant, because they really need to lead the way this week. So it's definitely something I'll be thinking about. I'm worried about Gold Coast's form. They've been very competitive in every single game so far. They've played with this chip on their shoulder. Nobody really expected them to win too many games this season. Some people had them going winless, which is crazy. They're quick, they apply pressure, they move the ball well, and they play with this spirit that is really consistent, and that's something I'm very mindful of. There's the away factor, particularly for a team like the Suns, who will view this game as winnable for sure, and when you give them a sniff, they'll be taking that for sure. And that's something with both of us. We're both in that category, and if you give us an opportunity to genuinely win the game, we're really going to go for it, even though teams have probably let us take games this season and we just haven't done so. The ruck situation is something I'm a bit worried about. Matthew Lobe is a competitor and a warrior, but ultimately he's a squad player. When you look at Jared Witts and what he was able to do to us last time we played them, 60 hitouts, albeit not a lot of his hitouts go to advantage, but the fact that he was really able to dominate Lobe is something I'm definitely worried about. The last point is Mitch McGovern. He had this mystery injury scare, which turned out to be soreness from his hip/hamstring, and he doesn't look like he's going to play this week. Now that puts Harry Mackay in a situation where he's really got to be a leader of the forward line this week. Now, is he ready to take on that burden? I'm not so sure. Levi's okay when he comes in and he's that third option and just needs to worry about playing up the ground, taking a mark, and hopefully kicking a goal or two. Whereas now there's a bit of pressure on Harry to kick his 3, 4, 5, and Levi's obviously got to contribute there as well. And it's just not a situation that I'm very confident with. So perhaps we look at a Paddy Kerr or something like that. Team selection, I think Gibbons, O'Brien, and Lobu will come out for Solo, Kennedy, and Cruiser. Obviously not ideal that the twos had a bye this week, but they did play an intra-club match, and from all reports, Cruiser got through well, and so did Kennedy and for Solo. So we'll see how that plays out. It's very early in the week, so we're not sure how it's going to go. But yeah, Gibbons, I think particularly him, he needs to go. And O'Brien, yeah, again, it's cutthroat. You come into the side, you've got to find a way to impact. So we'll look forward to that. If Phillips is okay, we'll think about that as well. But it's a quad issue, and he's had that in the past. So not confident about that. Prediction, look, it's a winnable game. It's definitely a winnable game, and if we can learn from these mistakes that we make and these bad patches that we have, stay composed and play with a purpose, we can definitely win this week. So I'm gonna tip us by 11 points. This will be the last chance I give us before I really start turning. So got to win this week. Got to give the boys confidence moving forward, confidence in the game plan, and fingers crossed. What do you think? Let me know.